Tony, when I talk to other coaches like high school, junior high, Pop Warner coaches, one of the things that I'm excited about is they've seen your coaching style and seen that it works. The result was a Super Bowl, but just the way you handle your players. In the NFL, there's so much scrutiny right now on player behavior. Why is it so important the way you handle your team and the way that you go about doing the business of being a football coach on and off the field?
I think that's what our guys have to understand. That's what we talk about on our team, that 99%, 98% of the guys in the league are doing great things, doing awesome things, and that's what we want the public to hear about. Because of who we are, because of the coverage that we get, that negative is going to be blown up so much that we can't afford that. I'm not going to force you to be that way, but if you want to be on this team, that's the way you've got to do it, because that's what we believe in, that's our fiber, that's how we win. And I think guys do like that.
What would you tell young coaches that say the Pop Warner and the junior high and high school level about the importance of what you just said?
I really think, and I talk to our rookies all the time, who had the biggest impact on you? And we have so many guys coming in that didn't grow up with their dad, and to a man, when these guys are 22, 23 years old, they say, it was my Pop Warner coach, it was my junior high coach, it was my college position coach. You have an impact on these guys. You can help mold them into not only being good players, but being good people, and that to me is our job.
Okay, what's this all about? No excuses, no explanations.
I actually got that from Denny Green. When I went to work for him in Minnesota, he said, this is what this is all about. You have to have expectations. You've got to be willing to sacrifice and get the job done. And there's no reason you can't do it. In life, anything you want to do, on the football field, we can't allow ourselves to say, well, we could have if, or we would have but. And that's what it's all about on the football field. And more than that, then it becomes a life lesson for your players.
Tony Dungy, as a younger man, had a temper.
Yeah, that's definitely a learned behavior. And my dad worked on me for a long time. My high school coach, college coaches, everybody talked to me about being a leader and being under control. And it finally clicked in, but I wasn't always like that. I've learned it, and it's not my human nature. It's not what's naturally inside of me. But maturity as a person and maturity as a Christian has helped me master that.
Tony, you talk a lot about the synergy between football and life. How do those two things fit together?
In the National Football League, you don't go undefeated. You don't win every game. You don't complete every pass. In the Christian life, you don't go undefeated. And that's sometimes we think that's not the case, but it's true. It's not going to be just a bed of roses. It's not going to be all downhill smooth sailing. There are things that you have to fight back from, just like during the course of a season. And I think we did try to share that in the book, that, hey, you might say that, hey, this team won the Super Bowl and in the final stages everything was great, but there were some things that had to be overcome along the way, and difficulties, and just the normal everyday things that happen to people. And relating it to the Christian life, it's like it's never finished. And so the same way with last year, we won the Super Bowl, but our goal was the journey, and it's not just getting there one time. So we feel like it's not finished, that we've got more things to do, and I think it should be the same way in the Christian life. Paul says we've never arrived. We're always looking forward to the next things.
Tony, you had a great relationship with your parents. They were great role models for you. I know you have a great story about your dad and going out with him fishing.
My dad used to take us when we were young a lot. He loved to fish, and I got the bug. My brother never really did, but enjoyed that time with my dad. And one day we're out, and my brother hooked my dad accidentally, you know, and just the patience that he had in explaining what happened, how you have to be careful and all those things. And later on in life, I've accidentally hooked myself, or, you know, and I haven't shown that type of restraint at all. And it's just it's something that I learned, and I learned that lesson long after my dad had stopped fishing with us, really. So it just, and looking back on it, I was so blessed to have my dad there and all the things that he did. Now that I have kids and see how time-consuming it is, I'm just even more amazed at what my dad did with us. You have to try to figure out what God wants you to do, and He gives all of us a vocation. He gives us all something that we desire to do, something we're good at, and He wants you to do well at that, but He doesn't want that to be your whole life. He doesn't want you to get wrapped up in what you do. He wants you to be wrapped up in why you're doing something, and that why should be doing it for Him, for glorifying the Lord, for honoring Him. And if you'll do that and put Him first, He'll give you what success you need in your vocation. But we kind of do it the other way sometimes, and the other way can be a disaster. It usually is. If we're just so caught up in what we're doing, it usually doesn't turn out well.
All of us have that woman in our life that is the anchor. What did Lauren bring to your life, Tony Dungy's life, when you two decided that it was God had brought you together and going forward? What is it about Lauren that's special?
Well, for me, I think she balances me. She enjoys football and enjoys what I do, but it's certainly not her whole life. So she has exposed me to a lot of other things. She is very much a family person, so the kids and the family and our extended family are very important to her. And then she has the same love for God and the church and His church that I do. So we just think the same way about a lot of things, but she's brought that total outlook and not just focusing on my job or football.
Get involved in ministry down the line here. You're involved in several Christian ministries and charities and things by which you're able to proliferate your faith. People would say, well, why would Tony do that? I mean, he's at the top of the world. He's got everybody's attention as the coach of the Colts. Why would he want to do that?
I love what I do now. I have a great platform for the Lord that probably you could never duplicate. And I volunteer in a lot of things, but I don't volunteer as much as I would like to. If I had more time, I'd do much more things. And that's kind of where I'm at now. At some point, I'm going to really want to do those things and just dig in and do some things to help individuals. And at some point, that'll be the thing to do. Not right now, but eventually it will.
Tony, in your book, you talked about your son's death and the impact on your family. As hard as that was to do, did you feel that you needed to do that just so others could understand and so that you could reach out to others in a ministry way?
Included that chapter in the book because we wanted to tell people how we moved on, and not necessarily what happened, but how we got through it, how we persevered. And so much of that has been from talking with other people in the same situation. And when Trent Dilfer talked back and forth to me about losing his son, it had an impact on me. And I realized that as tough as it is, I could do it because Trent had shared with me his key, which was relying on the Lord. I said, Trent, we've been through a lot of ups and downs together. We've lost a lot of games. We've had disappointments, but I don't know that I could get through a disappointment like this when his son died. And he said, you know what, you could if you had to, because God would give you the strength at that time. And that's something I never forgot. And that's something I've tried to pass on to other people, that God gives you the strength to endure it, and He helps you grow through it. God does know the plan. He has a plan, number one. He knows it, even though we know just a little bit of it. He knows. And so when we're not sure what's going on, when you lose your job, when you lose a child, when you lose a parent, and you say, wow, this is just awful. Well, it is awful in a lot of ways, but it's not a surprise to God, and He has a plan with all of that to prosper us and for our good.
Tony, so much was made of you being the first African-American coach to win the Super Bowl. But as you reflect back now, what was the true impact for you off the field in terms of how you took that in and how you go forward?
The historical side of it, Roman, has been something that I have now had a chance to reflect on, and it's something that's just awesome to know that you'll be in the history book as the first person to do something. Not many of us get that opportunity, and so I do feel great about that, but I still have the same thought that I had on that night, that as great as that is, and as proud as I am of that fact, the fact that Lovey and I were there as two Christian coaches was even better.